to it. For now, let's talk about Tiger Queen. My God, we've teased it. Let's get to it.
Yes.
So I am terrible about summarizing other people's book buddies. For those of you listening, we're making our Tiger Queen's kiss. It's horrible. So I'm bad about summarizing other people's biographies and other people's books, because when I get to the end of it, they said, that's not what my book was about. You didn't understand it. So you're the author. Go ahead and give the pitch to esteemed audience. What's the elevator pitch? What do they need to know about Tiger Queen?
So Tiger Queen follows a warrior princess as she fights suitors in an arena to win her right to rule. But she's also living in a kingdom that's running out of water, so she has to deal with water thieves, who she's actually more worried about than the arena, until her last opponent is announced as the one man she's never been able to beat in a fight. So then she has to scramble to figure out how she's going to win her throne. And it might just mean teaming up with the people she never thought she'd side with. So it's a really fun story. It's based off of the short story The Lady or the Tiger by Frank Richard Stockton, which has an infamous cliffhanger ending. But don't worry, spoiler alert, I give it the ending it always should have had. So if you've read that short story, you will know
the
that.
Bold statement. Woo!
Oh, yes. Don't worry. I have been dreaming about this book. I know you're probably going to ask me, like, well, how did you come up with this idea? I read that short story, The Lady or the Tiger, in like 7th or 8th grade, somewhere around there. And spoiler alert, actually, one of the people that I dedicated the book to was my English teacher, who made me read the story, because she had that big, I mean, the book wouldn't exist without her. But she made me read that story, and being the like good student that I was, who sat in the front row and, tried to get straight A's, she asked us at the end, because there's a choice that the princess has to make behind 2 doors. One is a tiger and the other is a beautiful lady that she has to send her lover off to either get eaten or live with her biggest rival. And so she has to make this choice, and the story ends before you ever figure out which one she made. And so when my English teacher asks us, which story which door did she pick? Of course, I raised my hand and I was like, oh, well, teacher, it could have been either one. And she was like, yeah, that's what the story said. I want to know what you think. And so all these years later, I have finally vindicated myself, and I have told her what I think, and I give you the answer of what really happened to this daughter of a barbaric king who puts her lover into an arena to face, quote, desert justice. So.
And this is, let's see, this is who the book is partially dedicated to, right? Mrs.
Desautel's. Yeah. She was.
Has she received her copy yet?
She is not. It's a surprise. She and her family and myself are conspiring to keep her from knowing until the launch party, which is coming up in about a week. I'm having a huge launch party at Barnes & Noble, and I'm going to surprise her there and give her flowers and just honor her and thank her so much for being such a big part of my life and of this book. So, yay!
What day and what's the location for the launch party?
Yeah, so the launch party is at the Barnes & Noble.
It's open to the public.
It is, yes. Everyone, bring your friends. There is going to be a tiger-shaped cake that feeds like 200 people, so please come and eat cake. It's at the Barnes & Noble River Crossing in Keystone in Indianapolis, 6 o'clock p.m. on Saturday, September 14th. So 6 p.m., come, bring your friends, bring your family, bring strangers off the street, come and have cake and win prizes. There's going to be hundreds of dollars of prizes and giveaways, so everyone should come and have fun and have cake.
And of course, they can get their copy of Tiger Queen signed, I assume.
Get a signed copy of Tiger Queen and ask me any questions that we don't answer on this podcast.
Well, impossible. I'm going to think of them all, and we're going to take care of them. But if there's anything left, come and ask more, I guess, shark questions, because we're going to cover Tiger Queen.
Don't get me started on sharks again, because I can name so many, like cookie cutter sharks. Did you know there's a cookie cutter shark that like comes up from the deep and takes tiny little cookie cutter bites out of like other animals, and like it leaves a cookie cutter shape? Anyway, Tiger Queen.
So what? What influenced you as you were writing this book? Because first thing that came to my mind, of course, would be the obvious of Dune, and I also thought there was maybe a little bit of Hunger Games in there, just a little bit in terms of overall tone. This is a mean book. I was telling you before we got started. That's what I love about it. It's just how mean and nasty it is. The environment they're in is harsh. There are things called assassin wasp. You don't get those in a nice place. It's not a concern.
For grieving spiders, which are so named because if you get bitten by one, everyone around you will be grieving because you're about to die. It is a very harsh desert environment, and that's kind of what I love about it, is that, you know, despite these horrible creatures that live there, these people still survive. And for a long time, they thrived there until they started to run out of water. And so I think that is just such a cool aspect of it. And so honestly, one of the biggest kind of vibes it has is a Robin Hood vibe, because people are stealing water to give to other people. And so there is that kind of Robin Hood feel to it. There's a little bit of, so it's kind of like Hunger Games mixed with Robin Hood. And so I really do love that aspect of it, because I loved Robin Hood growing up. And so this was kind of a little bit of my ode to Robin.
And are you of the opinion that Kevin Costner is Robin Hood, and I will fight you if you say otherwise, or have you got a different Robin Hood that you imagine?
Pretty much love any Robin Hood. I mean, I love them all. So I'm just waiting for Disney to make a live action remake without a fox. I want like a real person.
Ooh, I wouldn't watch that. No, if you're gonna do live action, I want a fox. Or a shark. A fox can be forgiven if you replace him with a shark. That'd be fun.
Shark Hood. We need to start a petition for Shark Hood.
We'll set up a GoFundMe as soon as this podcast is over. We'll get it going. Now I've forgotten what I was going to ask you, because now all I've got is that stupid Bryan Adams song stuck in my head, because I'm remembering my misspent youth. Robin Hood, you were so wonderful. I do want to ask you,
because of Shark Hood in your head, but you know,
Shark Hood, but with Bryan Adams. The best of everything.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about doing a reimagining type of tale, and then I'm going to get back to how mean the environment is. But because you've done this now twice with the somewhat Midas-ish retelling in Touch of Gold, and now The Lady and the Tiger with Tiger Queen. So what is it about using classic works as an underpinning that appeals to you?
I mean, I just love looking at forgotten characters. I think, you know, like I mentioned earlier, I'm one of 4 siblings, so I'm a middle child, and I like to say that I suffer from forgotten middle child syndrome, but it's even worse than like a normal middle child, because there are 4 of us, and I have to share being a middle child with another middle child, so I get even less attention than other middle children, clearly. Yeah, I know. Such a hard life I live.
Well, maybe that's what part of why your dad was thinking about those camels, because he's got 3 others, right?
He's like, I
got
got 4. Yeah, I'll just take some camels. No, I think it's that whole, like, I love looking at people who are forgotten. So, I mean, in the King Midas myth, you know, it's all about him. It's about his power, and his daughter is just a means to an end. She's the reason that he realizes, like, when he turns her to gold, he's like, oh man, well, that was a terrible idea. And so she's just there as like his lesson to be learned. And I really wanted to give her her own story. I mean, if you're turned to gold as a child by your father, that's got to leave some lasting side effects. So I really want to explore that. Like, what does it do to you? And, you know, give her own adventure to go out on. And so I think that's kind of what appeals to me, is like looking at this story from a different angle. Like, what can I show you that you thought you knew, but you don't? So, I mean, in the Lady or the Tiger, it's, like I told you, it's a short story, but it's less than 4 pages. It's only a couple of pages long, and it's very repetitive in those pages. So it's like, there was a barbaric king. He was barbaric, and he lived in a barbaric kingdom. And so I really wanted to take that and expand it out into something new, into something you hadn't seen. Because again, you get this princess who has to make this decision, and it's almost not even about her in a lot of ways. It's almost more, again, about this barbaric king who puts her into this situation. And I was like, no, she's got to be hardcore if she lives in this environment. So I really wanted to explore her story and write about a hardcore female protagonist who can kind of take down the patriarchy in her own way, while learning who she is while still being strong. So I think that's what I really love, is that you can take these stories and make them new. You're not taking the fairy tales and saying, oh yeah, they have to be the same. Like, I want to write fairy tales where, like, if you've got, Little Red Riding Hood, you're not saying, oh, you can't go into the forest. You're saying, here's a sword, go into the forest and kill that wolf yourself. To give girls kind of that other lesson of, like, it's okay to step off the path, and here's the tools to do it. You don't have to stay on the straight and narrow. You can be the hero in this story. So I think that's what I really love most about retellings, is you can take the characters that we know and love and give them a whole new personality and more strength.
Makes sense to me, and I'm being a little bit facetious when I ask that, because of course I repurposed Hemingway's story for All Right Now, a short zombie story. I've been there, and by teaching at the Indiana Writer Center, my students are always crushed when I point out that officially there are only 7 basic plots. So get ready, learn your musical scales. Now within that, you can play any number of wonderful songs, but get these basics down.
Yep. There are only so many you can do, and so almost every story is a retelling in its own way. So I just make it more obvious.
And so is the third book that's coming, is that going to be a retelling of some kind as well?
So the third book is actually a sequel to A Touch of Gold. It's going to be called A Curse of Gold. We haven't revealed the cover for that one yet, but super excited about that one because it deals with a lot more Greek mythology, since the King Midas myth is a Greek myth. So it's going to have so much adventure, so much heart-pounding action. I can't wait. Can't wait for people to see what's in store. And I have a character who is kind of my version of Captain Jack Sparrow. So really, really excited about that character.
Very fun. So look forward to that. One's going to be released in 2020. Do we have an approximate month, maybe?
I think October is what I've heard, but it keeps changing. So for now, we'll go with October.
That sounds like a plan. And then getting back here to Tiger Queen, the one we can talk about, because it's available. Odds are pretty good. Unless you're listening to this the moment it drops, esteemed audience, you could go get your copy right now. To the library, to Amazon, to your local independent bookseller. Get to it. So let's go back to this idea of the barbarian king and a woman who has to be a warrior. Is it Princess Kateri? Am I saying that right?
Mm-hmm, yep.
I have been calling her Princess Katari. And I knew it was a little bit wrong, but I wanted it to sound like Atari, which is the problem with readers. It's because no matter how much work you put in, the readers are stubborn and they want to put their own little thing in there, which is why the book works.
You do what you want to do. And hey, once it's out of my hands, it's up to you.
It was Princess Katari, and she was occasionally 8-bit.
Yes.
But she is exceedingly tough. I mean, she's Batman. She's got swords. At one point, she's putting on her sandals, and she's putting weapons into the sandals to make sure they're in good place. And her training is relentless. I believe her father and her king, I suppose, locks her in her room for 3 days with fire-legged flies, and the idea is that she can't come out until she's burned by these nasty little flies that populate the environment. This is tough. So what do you always torture your characters, or was it specifically important in the case of Tiger Queen to be extra rough with the characters?
It's so funny because in A Touch of Gold, Princess Cora, who's the main character there, is a much softer character. She's very shy and kind of, quiet. And then in Tiger Queen, you've got, Princess Kateri, who's like out there like, let's do this, let's fight, like, come at me, bro. And so it's so crazy how different they are from each other. But I think I needed her to be tough because she's in such a tough environment. She's in a patriarchal society where she, in order to prove that she's strong enough to rule, has to defeat one suitor per month during her 16th, 17th year. I don't even remember my own book now. She has to fight these guys and win. And so it's just this whole thing of she has to be as tough as possible. And there's kind of this idea that the desert almost chooses its leader. And if you're strong enough, if you're as strong as the desert, then you will win. And so for a lot of people, it's kind of like, who is strong enough? And have you been tested by the desert? And will it let you win? And so it was just kind of this environment where she needed to be as strong, if not stronger, than the creatures that exist in this world to prove that, hey, the desert is going to pick me. At least that's what she hopes. So.
Yeah, it makes total sense for world building, because it's, it's that soft living like we've got going on where, what did our leader tweet out? Oh my God, let me just get back to PlayStation. No, if the leader here isn't strong enough to keep the water supply going, people are going to die. So she has to be that tough to command that respect. But it's just eminently readable, because the meaner you are to her, the more engrossed I was. Like, yes, what's happening next? Oh, that's terrible. I would never want that to happen to me. I'm so glad it's happening to you. Let me read what happens after that.
Yes, there are a lot of terrible things that happen to her just because, again, she lives in a really bad environment that's running out of water, and she's got to figure out what to do and who's right and who's wrong. And when she discovers some secrets, that the Sands have long tried to hide and that others might kill to keep hidden, she's really in big trouble, and she might just find herself, facing tigers in the arena instead of her next opponent. And so it's just this constant struggle of like, am I right? Am I wrong? What's happening? All these things. She's trying to like figure out what's going on in her kingdom. So it's a pretty exciting read, if I do say so myself.
You're a fan. That makes sense.
I love it. I just love that I finally got to give the story an ending that it should have had. So there.
And I always wonder when people ask authors, like, what kind of books do you like? Like, dude, just pick up their book. That's the kind of book they like.
Yes. I love YA fantasy books.
No book has ever been written more to my liking than the books I wrote.
Yes.
100%. They're pro me. Hopefully other people like them too, but 100% I'm on board. And I wanted to ask you about, with the harshness of this novel, at any point did you go too far and have to pull back? Or is it all there on the page?
I did pull some back. There's a character named Roderick who is quite mean, but again, he sees himself as having the strength from the desert, and so he thinks he can be as mean as he wants because the desert allows it. And he did a lot of like murdering early on in a couple drafts, and that just didn't fly. So I was like, he's too mean, because like you can't have someone who just has no redemptive qualities whatsoever. I mean, maybe you can.
Fair amount of murdering in the Bible drafts.
So much murder. Let's pull that back a little bit. So he's still a very, very mean character, very tough character. But it's a little bit about power too. He wants to be in power just as much as Kateri does, in a lot of ways. And so it's kind of this fine line of like, what would you do to get to be in power? And what would you not do? And, do you want people to respect you or do you want people to fear you? And he kind of crosses that line quite a bit.
But you do a very nice job of, we know that in his mind, he believes he's right. We follow his logic.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I think
that's the right thing, theoretically.
Yeah, that's what you have to do with any of your characters is, especially anyone who might be a villain, is they have to, there's a quote from, I think it's Tom Hiddleston, that says, every villain is a hero in his own mind. So they think they're doing what's best for them, what's best for the kingdom, whatever it may be. And that may not be the case from our perspective, but from their perspective, hey, this is what I want. This is what I want to get. So I thought that was really kind of an interesting way to do it.
A couple of questions about some early plot points. I always want to be careful because it's not fair. I've got my copy. Your poor English teacher doesn't have her copy. So we don't want to spoil anything. But from chapter 1, which is not that spoilery, you set Kateri up as a fairly hateable character, because we open with her actively rooting for a child, an 8-year-old, to be eaten by a tiger, which is such an interesting spot to begin. So, what is this, Annie Sullivan? And then, my God, by chapter 2, chapter 3, I'm on her side. I'm with you. So how'd you pull that off? And why did you start there of all the places you could have started?
I think it was necessary to start there to get you into the arena, to show you this is the world we're in, and it is a harsh place. And this little kid, I mean, again, it's not super spoilery because you learn it in the first chapter. He's a desert boy. He's one of the kids who steals water. And that's a big offense in this society. If you're stealing water, it means someone else is going without, and they're already having to ration water, and things are not going well, and people may start dying soon. And so you see Kateri being like, yeah, this kid needs to die because we need to show everyone that you can't steal water. You have to stick by the rationing system or everything falls apart. And so it's just a matter of showing her logic and kind of understanding like what's going on. But don't worry, everyone. The kid doesn't. Well, I don't want to say anything, but
I was amazed when he was eaten by 3 sharks. I'm like, oh my god, that was the twist I never saw coming.
3 sharks came out of nowhere, man. And then that whale shark. What? Who even knew that they ate people? Because they don't. Don't be whale sharks. Great.
Sand sharks all through the desert. What surprised me is there's a million other things that can kill you. This place is more dangerous than Australia. It's nuts.
It's like trimmers instead of those like worm things. It's like just giant sharks coming out.
I imagine if there was like a billboard outside of, is it Arkai? Is the kingdom?
Accra.
I imagine if there's a billboard that like welcome to Accra, and then there was a population number, the numbers would just constantly be spinning downward. Yes,
I mean between very little water, the grieving spiders, the assassin wasps, everything else there, the sand snakes, like just look out, people. Look out. Watch where you step in Accra, okay? There's a lot that can go wrong.
Number one question or number one answer for young Akrans is, what do you want to be when you grow up? Alive.
I like that. Yes, it's so true. It's so true. I think there's a line in there. I think it made it in. It's like the first thing you learn as a child is like the desert will kill you. So yeah, you have to be pretty careful there. You don't go out past the walls. But even if you stay in the walls, things happen. So.
But I'm telling you, esteemed audience, it's just nonstop readable. There's no such thing as too much conflict. Go on. Keep talking, Miss Sullivan. I devoured this thing. I think it took me a day and a half to get through. All right, well, I had plans to do other stuff, but nope, this is what I'm doing now. I'm reading the rest of Tiger Queen.
That's good. I'm so glad it hooked you. That's always what I love to hear. So.
And I also wanted to ask you, how much time do you spend thinking about your reader's reaction? Because we don't want to spoil, but there is a huge reveal at the end of chapter 4 that when I got to it, I was like, oh no, that's terrible. And then I was like, I'm so disgusted. I'm going to just peek at chapter 5. And then the first line of chapter 5 starts off, I put one hand over my mouth to stop myself from vomiting. Like, Annie Sullivan gets it. She saw me coming. She knew that I was going to be revolted. So how much time do you spend thinking of the reader versus thinking of what you want for the story?
Honestly, this is going to sound terrible. I honestly try not to think about the reader because then I feel like maybe I would change something or not write something that maybe needs to be in there. And you do have to put your character through a little bit of tough stuff. And I love the reveal at the end of chapter 4 because all of a sudden you're just like, dun, dun, dun. Like, what's going to happen now?
Nothing good. Not for a while.
Because there's just so much tension there. And so I love adding that in. And then, maybe you make the reader suffer a little bit. But I think it's worth it in the end. I think it's worth it to go through it to get to the ending.